Welcome to the 12-Step Recovery Evolution podcast. Visit recoveryevolution.co.uk for more episodes, helpful resources and links to our social media. Also visit the site for information on how you can attend a future Zoom session or workshop live. Thank you.
Talked a bit earlier in the week about having a good sponsor. And you did say that, you can have, there's a lot of people who are good people and kind people, but doesn't necessarily make them a good sponsor. And I suppose it brought back the question to me myself, because I'm only 2.5 years sober and I'm sponsoring a couple of people. Some fears there whether I was a good sponsor or not. And I suppose as a sponsor, I try to bring everything back to the program and to the principles. But I wondered if you had sort of any advice, especially for people who are not that long into their sobriety, but who are sponsoring, as to sort of what makes a good sponsor.
Well, again, I think me and Dan Esra can actually try and do a podcast on that, because again, it's like sort of a bit controversial, and at any point of that conversation, everybody else in the world can say, who do you think you are and who made you? So it's always, everything you say, it is quite, I want to be, as balanced as possible. I don't want to offend anybody, but there is, I believe, there is certain truths. And some of them truths are kind of like this. Look, if you're brought up in a really dysfunctional family, are you going to grow up as a functional kind of person? But if you're brought up in a really functional family, are you going to grow up to be really dysfunctional? I probably doubt it, or the chances are pretty remote. So again, I think it's the same with sponsorship. It's like, if somebody hasn't used drugs in 24 hours, then the person that's just come in, you can tell them how to not use drugs for 24 hours. And you may be able to stay one day ahead of them, but what I've learned over the passage of time is that some of that experience has to be experienced multiple times before you understand it. And that's why, but how many times till it's actually relevant to the other person is, as long as a piece of string. So, it is a kind of a controversial thing. It's kind of also like that, isn't it, with children? Look, when I was young, I used to steal cars. And I loved it, and it was fantastic. And I loved everything about it. It was just, but would I tell somebody young to steal cars? I wouldn't. I would tell them not to do that. It's wrong. And so, and I don't know where they come in with sponsorship. I think the point I'm trying to make is that when you're early around, it can be less intimidating asking somebody who's also not been around long to be their sponsor. And I do sometimes think the reason for that would be is that you're going to get away with a little bit more, and you're probably going to get a little bit away with a bit less than somebody been around for a little while. And, we try not to be like that. I tried to be when I'm sponsoring people. I tried to be as kind of flexible as I can, but sometimes I find things are a little bit too difficult for me. I'd say this. So after going around the houses there, I'd say this. 1, if you're looking for a sponsor, I think you should make sure that they've not just done the steps or doing them, but they've got a reasonable understanding of the steps. 2, I think you should look into their life and see if they've got what you're looking for. And I'm not going to put a time on that. I'm going to leave that right there.
Good morning. Going back to your 5 years, the first time I got sober for 5 years, I did exactly like you. I did volunteer work around drugs and alcohol, CAF and everything, but I didn't have a sponsor. So within 5.5 years, I was back out there. Now, I recently have let go of my sponsor because she's not really helping me. I had a bit of drama couple of days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and yesterday, and I'm coming to 3 months sober, and I'm able to not pick up a drink. But I did bring my sponsor, the sponsor I meant to have yesterday, to tell her what's happening, but she wasn't very supportive. So, it just made me feel flat. And you say, what's the point in having you if you can't even give me advice? So what do I do from here, Lester?
Well, again, I think this is a bit of a problem that may exist in the fellowship, and that's sort of a conversation that hopefully we can have with Dan and maybe hash it out a little bit, because is that, look, a sponsor isn't, we seem to esteem people that sponsor us quite a lot, almost like some spiritual guru. And, they're not really that. I mean, most of us in the fellowship have got our own problems, and, we're doing our best. And, I think it takes a good 4 years to straighten your head out. I was taught it takes 2 years for your body to recover and 4 years to get your head straightened out, but nobody likes the 4-year mark. I think where the dysfunctions involved in it, I think if you're actually working on it, it can take up to 10 years to straighten some of that out. Like in my experience, again, nobody wants to hear that because they're like, 10 years, but you get better on the way. But I do think you shouldn't esteem your sponsor too much. They're just people as well. So I think really it's the danger of putting too much stock into any one person, which is why I really do like to promote the big book, because the big book's really not a person. But you need to work it out for yourself and work on it yourself, hopefully with the direction of other people that have done that. But I've always been a very resentful person. I've never had a sponsor I didn't resent, or question or query. And, I've had in my life probably 3 sponsors up to date. They keep dying on me.
That was the first sponsor I ever had.
Yeah, but I can give you a big list of all. Can give you a big list of all of their problems and their defects. But I learned to look a bit past that. And for me, the most important thing about these, again, they were all older men than me. They'd all been around over 10 years. They all had families. They all had jobs. And most of all, some of them eventually they wasn't as knowledgeable as me because they had full-time jobs being plumbers and things like that. I was spending all my life reading the big book and, working with people as a job day in, day out. So eventually I was kind of superseded them with knowledge. Didn't stop me phoning them because they loved me. And they would help me figure out what God was saying to me and what I should do next, and they would reflect back to me what I needed to look at in myself. And so again, you've got to kind of look past their issues. What the important thing is, are they mirroring back to me what I need to change in myself? And based on that criteria, Val, I would say that sponsor did that today, didn't they? They mirrored back how angry and how judgmental you are today. You see? So that's the important thing to learn, isn't it? It's about a good sponsor is a mirror, not a mirror for you to stare at and try and change. They're a mirror that you can look back at yourself. And what do I need to change in myself? Do you understand?
This journey to God and appreciating the light that we can walk in today, do you experience that as being happy, joyous and free? Do you always feel good? Or, what's your experience on that stuff?
Question.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's been a happy, joyous and free. I mean, I don't, you know, like most people say, I expect to be happy, or I'd like to be happy, but kind of let that goal go quite a few years ago. I don't kind of put my sobriety, my spirituality in on the condition that I'm happy or not. In actual fact, I've kind of learned over the years that not to place too much over importance on how I feel anyway, because my feelings are fickle. And honestly, when people say, how do you feel? I kind of want to respond, and this is just for the purpose of understanding, is about what? You know, I feel really bad about that. I feel really good about this. I feel mediocre about that. I don't know what I feel about that. And so, you know, I kind of like for the overall. I kind of like to go for the overall. The overall experience that I've had in my life is amazing and wonderful and still is. But whether has it been painful? Yeah, it's painful dealing with yourself. You know, no wonder nobody really wants to do it. And again, if I could have found a way to sort of stay sort of dysfunctional without feeling the trauma and the difficulty of it, I probably would have. But you know, I find that I don't really, I wouldn't really explain dealing with yourself and doing this program and trying to address some of these problems. It is quite painful. But what I do know is when I'm willing to work through that painful experience without trying to relieve myself in the ways that are not really healthy for me, whether it be with drugs or alcohol or people or, you know, food and other things that we do. And again, nobody can claim perfection to doing, you know, this program or any other program. But I would say, you know, the feeling of happiness, which I know it to be. I mean, I don't get that very often, you know. Joy, I do have a deep sense of joy and a peace that I find that's deep. But, you know, being happy, joyous and free, probably when you think about, put that into the context of addiction and being a drug addict and alcoholic, then when I put it in that context, then absolutely, whenever I think about being in what it's like to be an alcoholic and a drug addict and to be in recovery, I absolutely 100% feel happy, joyous and free. But now put that into the context of life, then they wouldn't be my first three choices of words to use. But it doesn't mean it's a bad experience, just life can be tough. But, you know, again, if I just want to be happy, I mean, wanting to be happy all the time is pretty immature. It's pretty unreasonable. Because, again, that means, again, you're going to try and control everybody in your life. So, you know, this idea of being happy, I think it needs to be, again, really needs to be talked about, because if you're not happy all the time, maybe you think something's going wrong. And you're not going to get very far, I don't think, if you're just going to be around things that make you happy, joyous and free. But again, I notice a lot of people say, I just want to be happy. And, you know, they say things, you know, like, you know, just do whatever makes you happy, or, you know, live your best life. But it can become a very selfish, self-centered thing, trying to be happy all the time. So again, it's a big sort of topic, and it's very hard to give a simple answer. But I think if we just keep it in the context of where addiction's concerned, always happy, joyous and free. Where the rest of life's concerned, it's up and down, and it's a little bit of everything. But again, I think that's normal. I have quite a high range of emotions now, and I don't choose to escape the difficult ones anymore. I actually have found a lot of beauty in that, and a lot of love in that, and a lot of humility in that, and a lot of the, you know, the real pearls of life experience I've actually found. You know, I like using this picture, actual fact, is like, if you imagine that at the bottom of the ocean, there's a treasure chest. And inside that treasure chest is everything that you want in life, that everything that a human being would want is in that treasure chest at the bottom of the ocean. Now, what I learned was when I was on top of the ocean growing up, that as I tried to get near the things that a person would want in life, as I started to get nearer that treasure chest, I couldn't stand the pressure. I just couldn't stand the pressure. And if I keep going, I'd eventually explode. And so eventually I would sort of say, well, you know what, I'll just stay on top of the ocean, and I'm not going to try and get the things that I want in life that are in the treasure chest because I can't stand the pressure. So then I start designing other things that are that are not the things that you'd really want in a healthy life. But then coming into the fellowship and into my faith, that they sort of said, look, the way to the bottom of the ocean is to build a container. And through getting good sponsorship, good advisors to work in the program, helping to get rid of as much self as I can, having good people around me, and having a good spiritual belief, it's kind of given me a container. And now in that container, I can go to the bottom of the ocean and I can stand the pressure and I can enjoy them relationships and all of them things that I just, even now, I honestly believe if you took away my container, I'm going to explode. I can't afford to be without my container. When I'm not contained, I'm a crazy, piss your pants, angry, violent, aggressive alcoholic. So, you know, it's not about me, it's about the container. And that's what we've been trying to help you guys build, is something that's a container. I can't be free from this completely. It says I get a reprieve depending on the maintenance of my spiritual condition, but my spiritual condition is the container that allows me to be able to stand the pressure, because life is a lot of pressure, isn't it? Nobody can deny that, but I can stand it. I sometimes feel crushed by it, but you know what? I can stand it. And when you read the spiritual books, they kind of talk about like being purified. It's like gold. When they first get gold out of the ground, it's full of all impurities. So what they do is they heat it up, and then as all the impurities rise to the surface, they wipe them off. And then it cools down again, and they heat it up, and all the impurities come to the surface. They wipe it off. And you know, a not so pretty picture is, I say, how'd you get the pus out of a spot? Well, you put a bit of pressure on it. So I think that's what life is. But I think when you haven't got a program, it's sad because you get all the pressure, but you never get the sludge wiped off the top. So when you calm down, all of the sludge goes back in to the metal, and it's a wasted opportunity. Having problems in this world without a program is like a wasted opportunity. So people that just keep having problems without a program, the sludge comes to the surface and then they shoot it around everywhere, and then they all calm down and the sludge all goes back down again. And it's like, what a wasted opportunity. When you got a program, the sludge does come to the surface. You might shoot it all around, but you wipe some off. And then you become a little bit more purified of that dysfunction and that self. So if you're not in that process, you're going to get heated up anyway. So the sludge is going to come to the surface, but that's not a bad thing. It's kind of what you want to happen. You want the sludge to come up, but you want the program to wipe some of it off, and then it goes down again. And so that's what a spiritual program is, in my experience. So I hope that answers that question.
Hi, basically what I wanted to know was, how do you deal with people that don't trust you? Like, I'll give you an example. The other day when my mum comes to drop a package off, I stumbled out of the door and she goes, "Come in, let me smell your breath." And I was like, "You can't smell crack, Mum. I'm not drinking." And I got really angry with her. And she's done that a couple of times to me before. And when I've gone to say my friend, "Oh, lend me 20 quid to get a curry." And she's like, "Are you getting a curry? Are you not getting a curry? I'll buy you curry." And I'm thinking, how do I deal with that? Because I'm starting to get really, really angry. And I'm thinking, well, fuck them, I might as well just use them. They all think I'm using them. And I'm like, no, don't be stupid, don't be stupid. And then it's like, bothers me for the rest of the day. My anxiety gets really like het up and everything, and it makes me want to thinking about using the thing. And all these people they're not trusting me. Some are they are getting quite good. But my mum, you know, just with the other day when I tripped, she's like, let me smell your breath. And I was like, I can't come close to you, mum. And she's like, and I was like, you can't smell crack, and got all angry with her. And I'm thinking, how do I deal with that? How do I cope with that? How long is this going to last until people are going to start like trusting you?
If Rachel, I understand. If you reverse the role, and you knowing you and your behaviour and the way you was living up to that point, would you trust you?
No.
There you go.
I wouldn't, but I get so angry.
I know. Again, it is a difficult thing, but again, it's also a bit selfish what you're asking of them, because they're frightened and they you know, you haven't got no past that says you're trustworthy. If you know, I know people in recovery is like, they kind of want you to just believe them, but if we actually based it on facts, then the right thing to do is to not trust you. So that will take a bit of time. And again, a good program, if you were working a good program, you would let them have that. You'd let them not trust you and say, do you know what, don't ever think about it again. I'm just going to do the right things. I'm going to try and not be selfish. I think Kelly's mum said a good one that I thought was a really simple way that she knew. She said, look, I knew Kelly had changed. I hope Kelly don't mind me telling this story, but it's such a simple explanation. She said, I knew Kelly changed the day that we went for a coffee. She was in rehab. We went for a coffee and we bought a cup of coffee and a cake. And she said, I knew Kelly had changed because Kelly paid for it.
Oh.
Right. So I think you never have to say that again. All you have to do is let them have that, because again, it's not really bad that they did it. And I know you want that, but the program says if you just focus on working a program, eventually they will start to see and they will start to trust you based on your actions, not just on your good intentions. Because again, you're a good person, you've had a lot of good intentions, but your actions haven't always backed that up. Now, forget about the good intentions and just keep doing the good actions. And it can take up to 4 years for them to go, do you know what? For the last, it gets better all the time, but they're going to go, do you know what? Rachel, give me some money. You know, the things that Rachel did in the past, she's not doing anymore, and she's getting consistent with it. And then they learn to trust you. But I mean, it's one of the funny things in people come up to me and say, in early recovery, do you trust me? I'm like, no, I don't. Your mum don't even trust you. I'm not going to trust you.
Yeah.
You ain't earned that. Earn the trust. You earned the distrust, didn't you? So if you've earned the distrust, you're going to have to earn the trust. And that's part of the program. But just keep doing the right thing and start taking some shopping around their house and start giving them 20 quid. Eventually, they're going to see something's changed in you. You understand? It's what makes the program fantastic. And in actual fact, that's a good place to finish, because tomorrow, Ricky is going to talk about making amends in the group tomorrow. So I'm pretty sure he's going to show our work in the program turned it all around. But I don't have to ask people to trust me. They can do that based on my actions, not on my words. So just give it some time. But it does hurt your feelings, but just, say, you know what, I love you. If you want to smell my breath, if that's going to help you feel comfortable, then I'm happy with that. I understand. You've got to start giving them now. You've been taking a lot. Now it's your turn to start giving them.